Hey y'all, I'm Benjamin Davies, and welcome back to Maker's Journey Workshop. Today, we're building off of our last video where we talk about, that's right, top tool buys for beginner blacksmith business. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely need to, because you would probably think that we're talking about these guys first, and we're not. Hydraulic presses, then, obviously, is the second choice, right? Nope, it's not hydraulic presses either. But before we get started, smash that subscribe button, please. It'd mean a lot to us, and it helps us grow our channel. If you're enjoying this video, and maybe you've enjoyed some of the other videos we made, let us know by smashing that subscribe button. Thank you. Also, if you've already been forging for a little while, and you dress your anvil different, we'd love to hear about it. Tell us maybe what you do differently in the comments below. Thank y'all for being here. That's right, anvils. And today we're going to tell you the proper way you should dress up an anvil, depending on what you're doing. If you don't know what you're looking for in an anvil, go back and check out that video we mentioned earlier. Yeah, we actually go into detail just a little bit about each and every one of these tools. We're going to tell you the qualities that you want to look for when purchasing an anvil, whether it be new or old. But for today, we're going to show you how to dress one of these anvils up. So what's that mean? It means cleaning the edges up and shaping them to the way you want. Anvils straight out of the factory usually have a nice mill finish on the top, and some that are even a little nicer will have a little bit of grinding and everything done, so you've got a smooth surface work area. Chances are, though, if you had to start out anything like us, you're probably not buying a new anvil out the gate. And that's okay, because most of us start that way. So where's the best place to even start when cleaning up the anvil? Pretty good question. First and foremost, whenever you're purchasing your anvil, you should be able to check and feel for pits, even though it might have some surface rust on it. Pretty smooth. And chances are, if somebody's gone through and filled in some pits or something with welds here and they've taken their time to do some grinding, you probably won't be able to notice until you start banging it on anyways. If they've done it correctly and used the right wires, there are some good higher carbon welding wire options just for such repairs. I'll post some below. But as I've said in that previous video, this is my first anvil. It's already been dressed. But fortunately, this anvil has got perfect edges. It's a lot heavier than it looks. Man, that's a sexy anvil right there. It's hard to find some with edges just that crisp and clean. Maybe it's been cleaned up or milled down, but it's still a good looking anvil. Really nice. That's really hard to find. In reality, you're probably not going to find an anvil with edges that clean. I think I just got lucky on this one. I either picked it up at an auction or a swap meet. I don't even remember at this point. Which brings me up to a side note that's probably going to be pretty helpful for you. If you really want to be good at something, chances are you're going to obsess over it a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What there is something wrong with is letting that obsession go unchecked. So what do I mean? One thing that's going to happen is as you begin to shop for these anvils, you're going to obsess over them a little bit. You're going to do a lot of research and you're going to learn a lot about what's good. You're going to gather a lot of numbers and a lot of information. And that way, when you finally get ready to make your first purchase on one of these guys, you can feel pretty confident just based on your own research of if you're getting a good deal or not. There's always a good deal to be found if you're just patient enough. So if you find one today and you don't have the money or you're not quite ready, listen to your gut. This is something I struggled with earlier on. I always thought it was going to be the last opportunity to get something whenever I found a good deal. It's not. So what am I talking about here? Realistically, you can only hit one anvil at a time. A mistake I know that I made when I first started out was, even after I bought one or two anvils, I continued obsessing over other anvils and wanted to get more. And now we probably have 5, 6, or 7 anvils. I've only ever hit 2 of them in my life. All right, so I got a little excited right here. I misspoke and says you can only hit one anvil at a time. Obviously, you're not supposed to hit the anvil. What I meant was during the entirety of my blacksmith career and all the anvils I've collected, I've only ever forged on 2. So don't get too hung up on collecting anvils. So maybe instead of spending that money on anvils to start out with, I could have gone and got that tumbler or that welder or some of those other things sooner. Just think about that. Buy the tool you want for now that's going to serve your purpose and move on. 100 pounds is a good range to start out on. And we can make a 100-pound anvil hit like a 200 and 300-pound anvil. And we'll show you some tricks down the road. So let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get that rust off of it so we can see what we're working with. Unfortunately though, sometimes this little nut right here will separate from the cup itself, making it hard to get off. But I got a little trick for that too. Why are we standing at the power hammers? I thought you were going to show me a trick. I am. Calm down. Years ago, I wore out one of these guys for the first time. They wear out. They've got seals in them and they go bad eventually. They're pretty inexpensive to replace and it's pretty common to wear them out. That's okay. But what I didn't have was a wrench that was small enough to fit in there. My adjustables were too thick. And so I had to make something. It's just a, I think 2 by 3/16 flat bar, or 3/16 by 2 is the proper way to say it. And so I cut a little notch in it and I saved it and I've been using it ever since. Yeah, just an example. Obviously I'm not going to deconstruct my power hammer today because there's nothing wrong with it. And you'll have to remove that little black piece first, right here. You pop the Allen bolt off and that guy slides out and that keeps that from threading in and out. But the thing that bloody, who put that light there? But the thing that's wonderful about being a blacksmith, since we never get rid of tools, is it came in pretty handy when I was having trouble with this guy one day. Here, let me show you. Here's our little tool. Here's our angle grinder. And we stick it in right here. Don't forget to press that button on the back side. There's usually a button, see it? Black one. And because it's so thin, it has enough clearance to get in there. And it's about 2 feet to 30 inches long. And so it should crack pretty easy. Oh, look at that. Ouch. Thing of beauty. You know, I didn't even think to check the rebound on this anvil before we wire brushed it. Let's give it a check. I think we're pretty good. So even though we have some super clean, crispy edges, there are a few pit marks and hammer blows in it, and that's okay. You can do one of two things. You can chase that with the angle grinder and a flat disc, or if I was you and I'm just starting out, leave it, because I think you're going to do more damage than help there if you don't have a lot of time in with the grinder yet, because you're going to make some waves in your anvil trying to chase these, and you're going to eventually have to level everything down, which is a long day with the angle grinder. That'd be best served on a mill. Chances are you probably don't have a mill yet, and that's okay. So leave it like it is. Also, if you're lucky enough to find one with good crispy edges like this, and you're still very new to forging, I wouldn't touch a thing on there. I would work on my projects and let my projects tell me what I need to be cleaning up. What do you mean by letting the projects tell me? What I mean is, if you're doing some work and some offsets at the edge of the anvil, and you start to notice a whole lot of teeth marks, cracks, or cold shuts, at that point of offset, chances are you need to smooth that part out. And that's what we're going to do next. Ooh, that's cold coffee. Shoot. Nothing's permanent in this life. And once you realize that, it kind of helps you move through some things a little bit easier and better and quicker, as a matter of fact. But if you've just now saved up the money to buy your first anvil and you're not confident of how you should dress it, maybe wait a couple months and quickly learn. Maybe make some hardy tools first with different shaped edges to see what you like first. But if you're just bound and determined to dress your anvil from the start and you're lucky enough to get one with really square edges like this, here's what I suggest doing. So what's common practice? Well, we do a lot of ornamental work and leaf work. I also mainly do the primary bulk of my forging right here over the base. So what's worked best for us is rounding these edges towards the horn and leaving the edges back towards the heel square. But if you're new to grinding and don't have much experience with it yet, and you're a little intimidated by this next part, don't be. I would encourage you to approach it the same way you do forging. In forging, you always start square, and then octagonal and round. What? Here, let me break it down for you step by step. So we had two edges to work with before we started, the face and the side. But now we've just created 1, 2, 3 edges. Here, take a closer look. Okay, I do it again. I'm still pretty excited, and going back and during the playback, I noticed that I say edges, and what I really meant to say was surfaces, not edges. 1, 2, 3 surfaces. So there's your square, and that way it gives us a nice even surface to start out on. What we're going to do next is we're going to kill out those 2 new corners that we created. There's your octagonal. Not necessarily 8 sides, obviously, if you're counting, but it's the same method in which you draw down metal. You start out square, and then once you get almost to the length or desired thickness that you want, you go and you kill out those corners and you forge it into an octagon. And then you start to break it down to 16ths and then 32nds and then 64ths and so on and so forth. And that's how you get to circular. Does that make sense? All right, come on. So we got that first edge done, and we're gonna go ahead and do it on the other side. That way you have access to it on both sides of the anvil, because sometimes you will need it for different applications. All right, let's go. Sorry, better take those off or I'm just gonna yell at you the whole time. So those super crispy edges that we were pretty excited about. But I just found something while I was grinding. See this right here? Looks like a little hole, like a little porosity, which might have happened from welding. So, buyer beware. If you find an older anvil with super crispy and clean edges, I wouldn't feel the least bit ashamed about asking if they'd repaired the anvil or if they knew about it. And chances are they may or may not, but it doesn't hurt to ask. I don't think it's going to hurt us. A lot of times when somebody does take on that project and this one looks pretty clean, they'll use the correct welding wires like we mentioned earlier in the video. And even if they didn't do it correctly, you'll probably still be all right as a beginner starting out. There's a whole lot of space on this anvil, and you can only ever hit one spot at a time. And you're not supposed to be hitting the anvil anyways. You're going to miss slick, and that's okay. Final step. Are you ready? Or should we delay it a little longer and do some more talking? The last one sure is a doozy. We just throw the wire wheel back on and clean it up. It's a nice way to blend it, especially if you're using an aggressive pad. BT dubs, I usually use a 60 grit. That's my favorite. In my experience with 36 grit, I usually lose all my grit and my media off within the first few seconds of grinding. It just goes everywhere. I found 60 grit to be a nice compromise, and I can often blend with a smooth finish. It works for me. Give it a try. You know, typically I would have gone a little bit further back with my rounding, but I was trying to show you if you're a little bit nervous, just start there, okay? If you have nowhere to start, then pound on it for a few weeks, months, depending on how often you're able to get out there before you start dressing your anvil. There's no wrong way to dress an anvil. The best way to dress an anvil is the way that works best for you. If you're not sure about that yet, don't worry, take your time, figure it out. Your work will let you know. Maybe look at making some hardy tools with different faces that you can practice on before you dress your anvil. We'll have some videos of how to do that to come. If you're still wailing away on a little chunk of steel like this, that's okay too. Enjoy that. There's a whole lot of growth that happens inside here whenever you just use whatever you've got at your accessibility. Don't be ashamed of it. We all start somewhere. And the thing that's really cool about that is if you're able to start with this and eventually get to the point where you can make some really beautiful things, that's a pretty cool glow up. All right, y'all, get out there, make some mistakes, and I'll see y'all next time. Smash that subscribe button. See y'all.